and welcome back to the NWA 1983 project. I'm your host, Juan Cena, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm even better the second time.
Yes, yes. Production issues are rampant. Internet connections suck. And fuck a Comcast. How about that?
That's right.
Damn Skippy. So on tonight's episode, it will be another TV taping, a best of the NWA from across the country. We will discuss, in great length, WWE Hellin The Cell. In addition to that, we want to talk about Neville walking out of Raw. We're going to talk about Jimmy Jacobs getting fired for taking pictures with the Bullet Club. MLW One-Shot. And, most importantly, what if ECW did not go out of business? A jam-packed show as we prepare for our next big, huge event. Be live from Dallas, Texas, from the beautiful Texas Stadium. It will be Star Wars. How the fuck was World Class Championship Wrestling able to use the name Star Wars for one of their big events? Well, a couple of their big events.
It was back before they got really crazy about copyright stuff.
Yeah,
maybe.
they gave no shit. And we'll talk about the story because there's a famous story about how Gary Hart actually came up with the name Star Wars. So I think that's pretty funny. And main event of that show will be Harley Race taking on David Von Erich for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So first up, what if ECW never went out of business? Now, full disclosure, as I mentioned on our previous show, that one of the original concepts I had for this show was going to be a ECW 2002 project instead of the 1983 project, but I chose 1983 because it's a better year for wrestling, to be completely honest. But, we'll go into what are my thoughts on what if ECW would have stayed in business, kind of how that would work mechanically. And I guess to set the stage here, when ECW went out of business and, they essentially just folded up, the famous story, Paul Heyman shows up on Raw and then we're off and running. This is also in the midst of the invasion. WCW had recently went out of business too. And WWE had just purchased the trademarks and the video library and everything related to WCW. So when it comes to ECW, it was kind of funny because ECW went bankrupt. So if you notice, when they first did the ECW portion of that invasion, they called themselves ECW. But after a while, they had to go by the Alliance, right? Because ECW and WCW combined and became the Alliance, right?
Right.
That's because WWE did not own the name ECW at the time. It was still in bankruptcy court, and they were still, filing paperwork and all that kind of good stuff. They would eventually buy it, with some caveats. Obviously, the only that the WWE bought was their trademarks and a portion of their video library. I believe they do not own anything prior to, they don't own any of the super earlier ECW stuff. Yeah, because they didn't buy that company. It gets complicated, but. Todd Gordon still owns a piece of the super early stuff. I think he still has at least a piece of. I don't know if he owns the whole thing. And when it comes down to the footage, RF Video still owns, and they're still allowed to sell ECW pay-per-views and their TV show on their website. Apparently, Paul Heyman had given them a license for life to sell it, so the WWE could not take it away from them. So, wow. So if you want the unedited, kind of the pure ECW in its purest form, again, if you've ever seen ECW on the WWE Network, it's fucking edited to shit. I mean, they took a lot of the, not necessarily the bad language, but, a lot of the bad language is edited out. The music is probably the worst thing because they didn't license any of the music. And so you get really kind of a shitty version of ECW. So if you're looking for kind of the original... the original ECW you want to buy from RF Video. I mean, it is a little pricey, but you can still get it there. It's still available on their website. It's not remastered, so the quality is, essentially ripped from VHS, but it's still, as original as you can get. And it's the highest quality you can get without going through the WWE. So I suggest purchasing it there. But for our little what-if scenario, essentially this. A lot of people, when they talk about, what if ECW would have still survived? What if ECW would have lived? It wasn't going to live. At least not the way everyone thinks it would have lived. There were a ton of money in the hole. They eventually went bankrupt. And I don't think anyone in their right mind is giving Paul Heyman millions of dollars to bail out ECW. I don't think that was going to happen. Paulie was not going to give up ownership rights. So essentially, he's let it go bankrupt. So what would have to happen in this particular scenario, you want to keep it as realistic as possible, is that someone else would have to buy it out of bankruptcy. Now, again, WWE obviously has the most money, but again, they just picked up a lot of contracts from WCW. They just purchased WCW for a song and a dance. Right. I don't think they necessarily wanted to get in a bidding war with anyone for the copyrights for the ECW. Not knowing that the ECW property would get so hot, and they were able to sell a ton of DVDs, and they would have that, video library footage would start. If you ask someone in 2001 that if they're going to set up a new ECW brand, they probably would look at you like you're crazy. But they probably made their money back 1,000 times by now. So who will buy it out of bankruptcy? Now, there's a couple of names that are bantied about that could possibly buy it. Looking at the lay of the land at the time, that people who had the ability to purchase, a wrestling company out of bankruptcy, I guess the first people you gotta look at is the Jarretts. You have Jeff and Jerry Jarrett. They go on to open TNA in 2002, so they would probably be a player at the very least. I know Jerry Jarrett wanted to buy WCW. He was one of the bidders, from what I understand. We also have Eric Bischoff and Fusion Media, who were also trying to buy WCW at the time. That they actually had a letter of intent ready to go, but again, our friends over at TBS, Jamie Kellner, I fucking hate you, by the way, told them like, hey, you can buy it, but we're not gonna put you on TV. And at that point, they pulled out of the deal. In addition, like Randy Savage was interested in purchasing it, and that didn't go through. That would have been interesting if he ended up buying WCW. So he may have been a player by a wrestling promotion, but obviously he opted not to do that. And then you have Tommy Dreamer. Now, reports that I've heard that Tommy had offered to purchase ECW from Paul Heyman on a couple of different occasions, and Paulie just refused to sell to him for whatever reason. Billy Corgan was around. He actually loaned Paulie some money. Probably shouldn't have done that. He probably didn't get his money back. Also out there, eventually none of these guys ended up buying it. In my opinion, the most likely candidate to purchase it probably would have been Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer along with Billy Corgan. They probably would have got together and at least made an offer. And I don't think the WWE would have went in the bidding war for ECW. So for this example, let's say that Billy Corgan and Tommy Dreamer purchase ECW.
Okay.
So I think that's probably the most likely candidates out of that bunch. So what would ECW look like? Now, again, there's going to be some time in between. Obviously, they're not going to start up April of 2001. Paperwork has to be signed. Trademarks have to be approved. They have to be ready to go. You have to set up a new, administration, a new office. You got to try to secure some sort of TV deals. It probably would have been like resuming their deal on MSG, and ECW, instead of being based out of Philadelphia, would probably have been based out of New York, most likely. And then when it comes down to who you put in the office, and obviously you're going to have your crew from RF Video, so it would probably have been Gabe Sapolsky, who most likely would have been the booker. You would have had, along with Doug Gentry, and probably Rob Feinstein would have been involved. Ron Buffon would probably have been involved, and then you probably pull in some other people that, there's a lot of guys, a lot of office people out of work from WCW, so you want to pick up a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying like you pick up Shivani as an announcer, but obviously you're going to have Styles as your announcer, but maybe Shivani could be a producer backstage and doing some stuff. You don't need people. So getting all those people together and acclimated, ready to roll, you probably want to shoot for a November of 2001 date, right around November to Remember. And November to Remember, again, for those of you who don't remember, see what I did there? That was ECW's biggest pay-per-view. So you don't want to go through a whole year of not having a November to Remember. So that's probably where you would relaunch ECW, would be at November to Remember. Now, in terms of talent, now this is where everyone talks about talent. They want to talk about rosters and booking decisions and talent. So we'll finally get into talent and who's available. When a lot of people do these types of shows, they're like, oh, we would have hired Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles, and yeah, you can bring those guys in, but you got to look at the lay of the land here as well. So you want to look at fall 2001. Now, I think the person that you have to get right off the bat would have to be Rob Van Dam. Which means you would have to pay Rob the money that ECW owns him, because he lost that money in the bankruptcy. Like, he didn't get anything. So you have to pay Rob like the $120,000 he was owed or whatever it was. Plus put him on contract right away, because WWE would want him. They eventually did get him. But I don't think at the time WWE was interested in getting in the bidding war for any piece of talent, no matter how good they were. So you can get Rob Van Dam. I mean, you don't have to pay him. He's probably going to be your highest paid wrestler on your roster. But you need Rob Van Dam at that. You couldn't get Rhino because Rhino already signed. You couldn't get the Dudley Boys, Raven, a lot of those ECW guys, Taz, who already signed with WWE. They're there and they're stuck. You can try to pick them up if they get released down the road, but for your initial offering, you may not have those guys in time for November. So who else is available? Again, don't forget that a lot of the higher-priced WCW guys were just sitting at home waiting out their contracts, so they're not coming. So not that you would want them, but your Hulk Hogan's, your Scott Halls, your Kevin Nash's, your Scott Steiners, those guys are not coming. So what's left? Okay, we have Van Dam. Who else do we need? We need the Sandman, right? We have to hire the Sandman.
Yep.
We have to take Steve Corino. We take Sabu. Probably take Danny Doring and Roadkill. We would take, obviously, Tommy Dreamer since he owns the company now. Shane Douglas. You would have to take Shane Douglas. I believe he was with XPW at the time, but you can probably get him for a song and a dance as well. Chris Candido would be another guy. So you want to get your established ECW stars back, at least as many as you can get.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of talent who's available on the independent circuit who are looking for work, this is where hindsight is everything, right? So AJ Styles is available. You obviously want to get AJ Styles. He's been the best wrestler in the world for the last 15 years. So you want to get AJ. Christopher Daniels is another one. You want to pick him up. Christopher Daniels actually was sort of signed to ECW. At least he was going to make an appearance, and then something happened where he didn't end up making appearances. Low Key was a guy that was going to debut in ECW not too far after they closed. They ended up closing, so you could never debut. You would take Amazing Red. You would take probably Xavier. A lot of that New York crew, the SATs, a lot of guys that would probably show up in Ring of Honor. You would probably take initially, because again, you don't want to be flying these guys from everywhere. You guys, from a financial standpoint, you can't be flying people from all over the country, especially when you're trying to relaunch this thing. So you want to keep people close. So unless they're one in a generation talent like a Christopher Daniels, who you have to fly from California, you're not bringing a lot of guys in from around the country. So like a Paul London would probably be out, a Spanky, Brian Kendrick would probably be out, Lance Cade would probably be out, a lot of guys on the West Coast, a John Cena would probably be out, a Samoa Joe would probably be out. Because they're literally completely on the West Coast. But you want to bring in Christopher Daniels because he's that good. And he was actually one of the cornerstones of Ring of Honor when it first started. So that's super important to have him on your roster. Now, in terms of what the lay of the land would have been if ECW had survived, I don't think Ring of Honor would have been a thing. Ring of Honor was started by the RF Video Group. So it was Feinstein, Gabe Sapolsky, Doug Gentry. Those guys started Ring of Honor. Eventually, they sold it to Carrie Silkin, who sold it to Sinclair, and then we are where we are today. But I don't think ROH would have been a thing. Now you had a lot of other indies that probably would have went away too, especially in the Philadelphia, and because you had all these gaps. Like WCW's gone, ECW's gone, so you had all these other companies. Some of them have been around before, but some of them haven't. Yeah, you have 3PW, XPW, which is probably the world's worst wrestling promotion. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's fucking shitty. It's the worst. It's just I like some of their guys. I would probably take some of their guys if I could, but they're based out of the West Coast. Like I like Messiah. I like Supreme. Those guys were pretty good, but the rest of the roster was shitty. Kid Chaos was pretty good too. Wouldn't take Homeless Jimmy though. Because for fuck's sake. But, you'll probably pick up a Candido and a Sonny. You probably pick up, a Francine, a Dawn Marie. You take, those guys. CZW, a lot of people mistakenly think that CZW came after ECW, but CZW was around before ECW closed. Not too far before, but it was there. So a lot of these other independents probably wouldn't have existed. So again, it's going to be a major focus on what talent that we could get. You probably want to bring in some international talent in year 2, but you probably wouldn't bring them in year 1. So would you try to make a move to get a Muda? Would you try to get a Dan Severn or a Ken Shamrock or a Hayabusa? Or even Vader. Vader had a resurgence in Japan in like 2001, 2002.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of people forget about that. I remember Vader, like, I'm a fat piece of shit and leaving the WWF, but he did good work after that as well. So I think a lot of people forget about that. But a Vader in ECW would have been fantastic. You probably wouldn't have brought in New Jack. Like, you bring in New Jack later when you're established, but when you're trying to get something off the ground, I probably would not bring in New Jack. To me, New Jack would be like a modern day equivalent to Abdul the Butcher. Like, once you get established, you bring in New Jack to slice some people up every once in a while. He's an attraction. Right. He's an attraction. You bring him 4 times a year, pay him big money, right? Because he does get a good reaction. I know a lot of people say, oh, what about Punk and Chris Hero and Colt Cabana? I was like, those guys probably wouldn't have been there initially. By 2003, they probably would have been there, but not initially. They weren't big enough on the independent scene. They were in like IWA Mid-South, and they were in basically the Midwest at the time. So you probably get a Teddy Hart, though. Crazy ass Teddy Hart.
Oh, Teddy Hart, yeah.
It's fucking insane. He's awesome, though. You know, there's guys like Aries and Jack Evans and Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin. Those guys we're probably bringing down the road. Again, not initially. Again, if you want to look kind of what the roster would look like, just picture like the first 5 or 6 Ring of Honor shows, and then you just add like old ECW original talent on top of that. So your main event card would be like Rob Van Dam and whoever he's feuding with, because you'd probably make him the champion right off the bat. Probably feuding with, you know, a Too Cold Scorpio or a Shane Douglas or a Mike Awesome. You could probably get him back because he got released. Pretty Scorpio. Mike Awesome got released pretty quickly from his WWE contract, so yeah, he wasn't too long for the WWE. So maybe you can bring him back and have a good matchup with him, because, you know, as an ECW fan myself in like 1999, that was the big match that a lot of people want to see, was Mike Awesome versus Rob Van Dam. I don't think we ever got that match.
Yeah.
So that was a big kind of, you know, the whole Van Dam winning the ECW World Championship never happened. They just ran out of time. Because eventually he probably would end up being a Rhino for that belt at some point. So, plus Rob got hurt, like he broke his leg, or I think he had a knee injury, broke his leg, like in the last. Like he just came back. He was back for a couple of shows, and then they went out of business. So that's probably what the lay of the land for ECW would have looked like, and you know, late 2001, 2002, and then what it meant for the industry as a whole. It'll give you a nice alternative. You can bid on some of these guys. It would have been better for the boys, because WWE, when they were by themselves and they still have no one really chasing them, they could pretty much pay you whatever they wanted to. So I think a lot of those guys that had deals in 2004, 2005 weren't making a whole lot. At least not, you know, versus their counterparts in 99, 2000, 2001. So Matt, what say you? What are your thoughts on a revived ECW? What would it look like in your eyes?
I think one area you haven't brought up yet is what I call the sign of the times. Back then there was the whole like tech bubble. So kind of how like what's her face there from TNA, Dixie, was this outsider with money. You could have seen somebody who was a big fan with money that did, you know, wanted to get involved, because it just, there's always a sucker in wrestling. Always. There's some sucker you can take advantage of who just was like, well, yeah, it's going to cost money, but you got to spend money to make money, man. Mm-hmm. And a few million later, you know.
There've been tens of millions.
Right. And that's the thing, is you can see somebody who's this huge tech bubble guy making tons of money, wants to be, you know, this is going to be the next big thing, man, you know, and jumps on board. And I could see that happening, and that way you'd have certain people stay in charge or have more money to do things.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems they ran into is a lot of this stuff, like anything, is just like after a while there's so much, you know, similar stuff. You had to like mix it up. So I think having that new blood in there would have actually been the best thing for them. Yeah. Because I think, like a lot of things, you look at like WWE now, like Dolph Ziggler shouldn't be there. You know, Big Show shouldn't be there. Like they should be, Sheamus, one of the few guys I think of who's kind of reinvented himself, because he was like nothing. He was boring as hell, and now he's actually fun with Cesaro. But like, if you have the same roster working for a long time and there's no real evolution of character, people get used to that character and go, yeah, whatever. Bringing in fresh faces would have really helped out ECW.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, longevity.
Yeah, man. I think the product would have had to change.
Right.
I don't think they could have done, not that they even did a lot of it, but in comparison to some of the other promotions like XPW or CCW, you know, they didn't do the ultra hardcore stuff. I mean, obviously they did a lot of hardcore wrestling, but I think even the WWE had to fucking evolve coming out of the Attitude Era, because that shit wasn't viable for an extended period of time. So maybe, depends on what you want to tone down. but you don't have to tone down something. Usually they're going to be the sex or the bad language or the violence. You kind of have to hold on to the sex and the violence portion of it. Even that has to be toned down to a degree. You probably couldn't get with the bad language anymore.
Yeah.
At least that would be the easiest thing to cut. So I don't think you necessarily needed it. Unless you got like on a HBO or something. If you're able to make a deal to get on HBO. Because again, don't forget, wrestling is still hot.
Right.
So you might have been viable like on a Showtime or a HBO or Skinamax or whatever. Maybe you could have had, nudity.
I think
and extreme violence.
No one's done it, but you could have, using the HBO boxing formula, you have an event that's on HBO, right? So you have those eyes on it, and you build up around it. So their pay-per-views are actually on HBO.
Yeah.
And people, you have a couple of house shows, but most of your big-time guys don't come into the actual big show.
Yeah.
So that way you can fly in your Christopher Daniels and have him cut a couple promos to build up the match, maybe show up for one and work a house show. But don't have like a huge bunch of house shows because you're bleeding money that way. Having these guys go out and wrestle a house show of 1,000 people, if that.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. I mean, it would have to change. The format of ECW would have to change. You want to keep that ECW flavor, but it was going to have to change. And I think Ring of Honor proved that. Like, we're going to make a change. We're going to focus more on traditional wrestling and high flyers versus the hardcore stuff. Now, Ring of Honor does have hardcore elements to it. It would be, ladder warfare would be their big hardcore match, right? And they do have wild brawls from time to time, but for the most part, Ring of Honor is high flyers and technical wrestling, right? That's what they're known for. So it's funny that the three guys from our video who was there from literally the beginning of ECW saw it like we got to be different than ECW. It's not going to work, and they built it and they had longevity. Ring of Honor has been around longer than ECW was. Now they may not have the effect in terms of impact on the industry that ECW had, but they're a viable business. And this year has been their strongest year ever.
Well, they just signed Cody to that contract.
Yeah, and I heard that was for decent money. So these guys out there are getting paid right now. So getting paid. So I think that's the way ECW would have kind of unfolded if they stayed in business. Yeah, I would have liked to see it. I actually did I used to play Extreme Warfare Revenge in 2001 when ECW was gone. I just continued in this game. And just went straight through. I think I had Shane Douglas as the new ECW champion. He's feuding with Steve Corino, who I believe had just recently won the NWA World Championship.
Right.
But yeah, that's ECW revived in a nutshell. So Matt, I know you didn't get to see it yet, but I just recently watched MLW One-Shot. Now, for those of you who don't know, that MLW was a wrestling promotion in the early 2000s, started by Court Bauer. It lasted for I think about a little bit over a year, I think. And they were one of those kind of independents that rose up from the ashes of the demise of WCW and ECW. MLW used a lot of stars and tried to market it that way, and eventually it kind of it wasn't viable financially, so they just shut down. And then Court actually went and got a job at WWE for a while, so he was in part of creative and a writer. When he was let go, he started his podcasting network that he has. So MLW Radio has your Eric Bischoff show, it has your Tony Schiavone show, it has your Bruce Pritchard show, it has your Conan show. JJ Dillon has a show on there now. So it's a really viable business in terms of wrestling podcasting. But essentially, he must have got the itch again to put on a show. So he's like, I'm just going to put on this one show and see what we can do. And watching this show, again, it's been, I would say, maybe 15 years, 14 years since MLW has been around. They put on a really good show. Again, for a first show, it's exactly what it needed to be. Not too much, not too little. It was just right. Production values were great. Not a big fan of the venue, but it looked good. Good camera angles, good camera shots. Hell of a main event with Ricochet and Shane Strickland. They also had MVP and Sammy Callahan on that show. Yeah, Jeff Cobb taking on Tom Lawler on that show as well. So for a first show, it was a really good effort. And it looks really kind of slickly produced. And they had Tony Schiavone on commentary, which was nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the news kind of broke that night that they're doing another one. So they're doing another show called Never Say Never. And Tony Schiavone will also be commentating on that show. So it looks like they're going to start up again. And hopefully they can, maybe 4 times a year, 5 times a year, that'd be great. The only complaint about the show was the crowd. The crowd seemed dead and listless today.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was at a club, I believe. It was at a club. It wasn't like at I guess a normal arena, and it was in Florida too. I think Florida might be getting kind of burned out on wrestling because they have all of it.
Right.
Between their independent promotions, NXT, Global Force, and then they get a WrestleMania every 3 years, it seems like. So I think Florida, although it's a huge state, I mean, it's pretty big, I think it might be kind of burnt on wrestling. So the crowd seemed kind of dead. They didn't get those, huge reactions or big pops that you're kind of used to if you watch like a Ring of Honor show from Chicago or the Hammerstein. You know what I mean? So, or some of the PWG shows that are just, the crowds are insane and they're hot. So that was my only kind of complaint on that. But otherwise, it was a really good first effort, really good show, and I'm really excited to see the next one. Plus, Ricochet is the man. He's getting signed soon, by the way. Spoiler alert: he loses in the main event against Shane Strickland, and he also just recently took the fall in New Japan. So it looks like he's coming to WWE sooner rather than later. So be on the lookout for him once his Lucha Underground contract expires.
Ah.
So next up, we're going to talk about WWE Hell in a Cell. And we'll have our modern wrestling correspondent, Luke Martin, take us on the journey. And I'm here with our modern wrestling correspondent, Luke Martin, and we're going to discuss the latest WWE pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell. So, Luke, how's it going?
It's going. Slowly but surely.
All right. Fantastic. So, Luke, what are your thoughts on the overall presentation of Hell in the Cell?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't too bad, which I guess is kind of sad to say, but really can't really expect a lot on one of these, middling monthly pay-per-views. Plus, Hell in the Cell is so overdrawn, and then you add Shane McMahon to Hell in a Cell. Now become like his match. He's evidently the Undertaker or Mick Foley or whatever, and there's no reason for it.
I feel like he's in the Mick Foley spot of the guy who falls off of things.
Right. It's really cool that you can do those spots, but when you do those spots every single time, it stops becoming interesting and becomes you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. So we're gonna go over each match as in depth as we can go, but when there's no real depth on the show, it becomes extremely difficult. So on the pre-show, we had the tag team of Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin. They defeated the Hype Bros of Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder. So Luke, what's your opinion on the tag team of Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, Team Angle 2.0?
First of all, I don't know why Hell in a Cell has a pre-show, because I didn't watch it. But why does it Hell in a Cell necessitate a pre-show? I don't know.
Why are there pre-show matches? Why is there pre-show matches at all? It's not like on a free-for-all, like on pay-per-view. Like back in the day, the pre-show match would be like on Sunday Night Heat or on it would be free before the pay-per-view started. So I don't understand why there's a pre-show at all.
Yeah, and the only reason that it makes sense is like a WrestleMania undercard, which is fine and that's all right. But no one's looking for that coveted Hell in the Cell undercard spot too. I think it's cool that they're doing it. Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin is there, but honestly, Chad Gable should be where Jason Jordan is at because it only makes sense. But they just tried to swerve themselves, which they're so good at swerving now. With Sister Abigail, that was so greatly appreciated. It's awful. They're just swerving to swerve. It's almost like Vince Russo is there. He's just swerving people to swerve people.
Sister Abigail was a Black Scorpion level reveal. It's awesome.
It's just not it. Why? There are so many things that you could have done with a character like that. So many things that you could have done to save Bray Wyatt's character by introducing that individual. But nope, they don't want to do that. So that's fine. They can continue to swerve. So that just, it's neat that Shelton Benjamin, Chad Gable are doing stuff, that Shelton Benjamin's around, and Ryder, just whatever, Mojo Rawley, I don't even know why he's under contract or whatever.
So in terms of Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, again, I also do not understand why he's currently on the roster. Mojo Rawley seems like to be wasting this roster space. Zack Ryder, I really do enjoy, and I wish he was heel at this point, because I think he's a good heel run a good heel run in him. But at this point, they're essentially just undercard guys who are not doing much of anything. So that tends to be unfortunate. Next up, we had the Usos, who defeated the New Day, and there was a Hell in a Cell tag team match for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship. So, Luke, what are your thoughts on Usos versus New Day?
That was a hell of a match. Did you get that? Hell of a match, hell of a cell. No, all right. So, the match was really good, really great, very brutal side of the New Day. You probably haven't seen before. Beat the shit out of the Usos. Kendo sticks. They actually had one spot where they put the kendo sticks in the chain link in the corner and just basically trap them in there and then beat the shit out of them with kendo sticks. The Usos were also brutal as shit. They handcuffed Xavier Woods and put him over the ring post and then just bludgeoned him with kendo sticks. They did the double Uso thing with a chair. That was pretty cool. The best thing about the Hell in the Cell was that feud had been built up. There was a lot. You could tell that they hated each other. It established the hate, and they showed it. They didn't do a whole bunch of stupid high spots. They didn't leave the Hell in the Cell. They fought in the Hell in the Cell like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a great way to get the crowd into the match, and it's probably the most logical Hell in a Cell match that they've had in here.
Yeah, I mean, they just ratcheted up the violence, which in a blood feud, is the reason why you have a Hell in a Cell. And a Hell in a Cell is not an athletic contest. It's supposed to be brutality and violence, and it should be blood. We'll get into that at another point. But I think overall, this match, did exactly what it was supposed to do. And I think it just made the Usos just super strong. So I think this was probably the match of the night.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Although it's the opener, but
it's not going uphill.
No,
that way.
Next up, we have Randy Orton, who defeated Rusev.
Okay,
who gives a shit?
I was gonna say let's skip that. So basically, you have Rusev, immensely talented, Randy Orton, who's an old hand at this point, and it's already been kind of rumored. I mean, Randy Orton told Rusev to try to get out of his contract. So basically, you have Randy Orton, who at this point does not give a shit. He's just taking the checks from WWE and going to cash them.
Yep.
That's all he's doing. He doesn't care. He just does what he's got to do. RKOs. That's it. But the match made no sense. I don't know why. I mean, I guess he beat him. I don't really know why they're feuding at this point. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they keep putting them together, but it's just two guys with nothing to do that people want to see, so they just put them together for no reason. And they added Aiden English in at one point because he's married to a Guerrero, so I guess he gets to keep his job. So it's basically just the catch-all, the burnt crispy fry at the bottom of the fryer.
It's just shit.
Yeah,
it's just a dingleberry on a hairy ass.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Next up, we had Baron Corbin, who defeated AJ Styles and Ty Dillinger. Now, this kind of set the internet on fire. They're very upset that Baron Corbin had defeated AJ Styles and Ty Dillinger in this triple threat match for the WWE United States Championship. So my question to you is, why the fuck is AJ Styles in a match with Baron Corbin and Ty Dillinger?
So it wasn't really anything to do with AJ Styles. So basically they needed a reason for AJ Styles to drop the belt so he could feud for the championship. They didn't want Baron Corbin to beat AJ Styles clean, so they added Ty Dillinger. So they had Ty Dillinger beat Baron Corbin with a roll-up, and then Ty Dillinger evidently politicked his way in with Daniel Bryan to make it a fatal three-way, or not fatal three-way, whatever the hell.
Triple threats.
Triple threat, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. But he was just there to take the fall. That was it. So he basically had the match ended. Styles Baron Corbin gets kind of knocked. He's like doing his thing he's out on the outside the ring. AJ Styles hits the fabulous forearm with Ty Dillinger. Baron Corbin slides in, throws AJ Styles out of the ring, and pins Ty Dillinger. So really nobody lost. So we'll probably see a Ty Dillinger Baron Corbin feud and move AJ Styles somewhere else. So really it was a maintenance match. It was a triple threat. It was decent. It wasn't, but nobody was really excited about that match. But it was pretty neat. They were doing some good things. Everybody worked well together. It didn't look, but I mean, if you put AJ Styles in a match, I mean, he can make Shane McMahon have a good match. So you're gonna be okay when AJ Styles in the mix. Ty Dillinger did a good job. Baron Corbin, I don't know what he's trying to do himself.
Baron Corbin is just green. Ty Dillinger, for someone who just came up from NXT, he's essentially a veteran. And AJ Styles is also, a veteran, so they're able to carry Baron Corbin through this match. And I don't know what they're gonna do with Baron Corbin. Hopefully, I don't know. But that was everyone's kind of opinions. Like, what?
Right. So he's on. It wasn't too bad. It made sense if you really thought about it, but it wasn't going to be anything that's going to light the world on fire.
Yeah. So. Next up, we had Charlotte Flair, who defeated Natalya via disqualification. Now, this was a singles match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. So, Luke, what's your opinion on Flair and Natalya?
So you had two good workers, probably two of the best women workers that they have, and they put them in a match. It was, they played off the Hart Flair angle, which is getting old at this point. But what they did is you had Natalya go after Charlotte's leg the whole time, her knee. The match, kind of worn down. She went outside, and then she beat the shit out of her leg with a chair. So it was actually good. Gave a little bit more of the brutality that we're kind of looking for, that violence, women's matches, and it made psychological sense. So Natalya didn't want to give Charlotte Flair the opportunity to beat her, so she took her outside, and she'd been working her leg the entire match and just beat the ever-loving shit out of it. So she was trying to injure her so Charlotte wouldn't be a threat to her title. So it all made good psychological sense. They let them do some different things. It was, they're trading submissions, doing those kind of things. It was a good, solid match that made sense, and it wasn't a bunch of it wasn't a fatal triple double way match with every female on the roster, which the two best females on the roster, and it didn't end. They didn't throw Charlotte Flair the title. They had Natalya be a heel and beat the shit out of her with a chair, and then leave holding the title up. So they say, and they kind of made the juxtaposition once Charlotte won, but Natalya looks like the champion tonight. Whatever, right? So it was good. I really liked it. I thought that it was one of the better, more recent female matches. And if they did something that they haven't done, they actually used one of these median pay-per-views to build a feud or a bigger pay-per-view.
Yeah. About fucking time.
I don't know who wasn't there that day, but somebody with half fucking brains approved it, so it's wonderful. All right, so and Natalya broke Trish Stratus's most pay-per-view matches for a female. So there's
nice.
That. Yeah, so that's always fun. Yeah. And I like Natalya a lot. I think
I wish she would change her gear. I do not like her gear.
Wait, the heart weird.
It's just I think it makes her look dumpy, and she's not dumpy.
No, she's not. But she looks fine.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I like her pink, I don't know, when she first debuted, she had almost like the Bret Hart type gear. That was pretty good. I wish she would wear her Debbie Desperado gear from Southpaw Regional Wrestling, because that looks awesome. But her current gear is I think is shitty. But I love Natalya anyway. So next up we have Jinder Mahal, who defeated Shinsuke Nakamura. And this was the match for the WWE Championship. So, what are your thoughts on this match?
I don't know. This is almost worse than the Rusev Orton match, because this match was supposed to mean something it never does. And it's stupid that Jinder Mahal, why? He hasn't won clean. I mean, I guess he put his Cobra Clutch slam on Nakamura, and that's how he won. That it was more of just like constant. It's just stupid. He never wins. He never goes over. He's not ever. He's almost like a chicken shit heel, except he's not like smart. Like, at least Seth Rollins, even though his title run was awful because he never actually won, like he felt legitimate, like he was threatening. I don't feel that most WWE fans don't really hadn't followed Nakamura before he showed. It's really hard for me to imagine that Shinsuke Nakamura is getting taken out by Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
I don't see it. And
he beat Brock Lesnar.
Like the whole time, like the Singh brothers are doing their thing, and they finally got thrown out, and then I don't know. It was in like so they would jump up on the ring, and then Shinsuke would like go over, like he almost looked annoyed that they were there, and I don't know if that was what he was supposed to be doing, but I think that's what the crowd was feeling, because it's not like, oh, that dastardly Singh brothers. It was like, fucking seriously? Because it's the same thing that happens every time, and that's exactly how Jinder wins. So either Shinsuke is fucking retarded, or the booking is stupid, and I think it's the booking. Because you're making the people, and why are you feeding Shinsuke Nakamura to Jinder Mahal? Why? What's the point? What does that prove? Nothing. It proves nothing. If he beat him, if they really wanted to do something for Jinder Mahal, have him take Shinsuke's shit for like a fucking match, and then have him win clean. Have him overcome adversity or do something. Like you can do badass shit as a heel. Omega's still a heel if he beats Okada. No one's going to be upset about that. He doesn't have to cheat to do it. He's just a dick who happens to be good at wrestling. But I don't know why it is that the only person that can be a badass and be a heel is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
But
I don't even consider Brock Lesnar a heel.
Well, Brock Lesnar is just Brock Lesnar at this point, but that's a whole different subject. But still, I'm just saying, it's just I don't get it. I don't understand why it's necessary, and it was a pointless match for a pointless champion who needs to get rid of it. I mean,
I told these motherfuckers when they gave him the belt, and everyone thought it was funny, and they thought it was fucking cute, and they thought, oh, Jinder is a champ, motherfucker was a jobber getting his ass handed to him by Finn Balor like fucking 2 weeks before he won the fucking belt. And everyone thought it was funny and it was fucking cute. And I said, wait in fucking 6 months. You're going to be sick of this motherfucker because he had no foundation. He had no build. And I told these motherfuckers that. And now they're like, fuck this guy. And I told you guys from Jump Street this was going to happen. I told you. Y'all didn't listen to me. And you guys thought it was funny. Like, oh, we should put the belt on fucking Heath Slater. Fuck that shit.
They haven't booked him well. If he came in, won the title, chicken shit his way for a while, and then started winning matches and beating people, cool. But he's not done that, and it's not fun anymore. And it's become formulaic, and it makes all the faces look stupid because they don't. It's like they don't know that the Singh brothers. You don't know that he's only won every match that way. So how? So
do you think AJ's gonna come up and just beat him to end this fucking experiment?
Please. If
everyone's hoping,
but I don't know. I mean, so you in the same Raw episode, let's say you have the Shield reform, the crowd is exploding, right? And then you also have the Sister Abigail disaster. So I don't know if they just like have two groups of writers in different rooms, and they're just trying to compete to see who has good ideas, and one is obviously beating the other. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like the same people are booking this show at like the same time. It's like half is booked by the old team and half is booked by a new team.
All right.
So I don't know what's going on, but it seems like there's just madness, and I just don't like if AJ Styles should beat him, and then you can put AJ Styles up against Shinsuke Nakamura.
And then eventually you want to get to that Owens AJ match for the championship. That's where you want.
If you put Owens, just put Owens in there with anybody, Nakamura, Styles, anybody. I don't care, but please don't do a triple threat match. I don't know what I don't really like multi-man matches all the time, and I'm about tired of them. So let's not do that anymore. And what's the next big pay-per-view that we have coming up?
Fuck if I know.
I think it's. I don't know.
Halloween Havoc? Is it Halloween Havoc?
I don't. That's where.
Is that Roadblock?
I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about real pay-per-view.
Oh, TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs.
Okay, so maybe we'll see. No, I mean I'm talking about real, like actual, like SummerSlam, Survivor
Survivor Series.
Okay, that's what I thought. So hopefully they'll do something at Survivor Series, but we'll see. So I don't know, but that was shitty match, shitty psychology, shitty shit.
And fuck a Jinder Mahal. That's what I gotta say about that shit.
Very well.
Next up, we have Bobby Roode, who defeated Dolph Ziggler in a singles match.
So the only thing I took from that is Bobby Roode has really weird looking nipples.
Does he?
He does.
Are they innies?
No, they're long.
Really?
Yeah, they're long.
Like African nipples from Africa?
I don't know. They're just
like Cambodian breast milk nipples.
No, they're just really like
pepperoni style.
No, they're like long, like the head of his nipples long. It's long. It's like a little icicle in there. It's weird. Weird. All I could take from the match because anyone beating Dolph Ziggler because they keep trying to put it. It's like, oh, he's a former world juror. You've buried him so much and fed him to so many people. If you don't beat him, you're dumb. If they brought Bobby Roode up here and he lost a feud to Dolph Ziggler, that'd be awful. What are you trying to do? So
why can't Dolph Ziggler just be the KFC man? Like, can you be like that's your new gimmick? You're the Colonel. You're the KFC man. Be the KFC man. You probably get more over. I mean, Dolph is a hell of a worker. We all know this. Everyone knows that for some reason they don't do much with him. They're like, I don't even know why he's even on the roster. I would probably ask for a release night now and go to Japan or something. You know, there's other things for him to do, and he'll demand big money on the indie season because you can work that ROH style, that Evolve style, that PWG style, that Japan style. You can work all those styles. But I think he's like, I guess I make more money here. I guess.
I mean, he's older. He is in his late 30s. So at this point, he's doing Randy Orton things. He's taking checks.
He's taking checks.
It's easy payday. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really have anything to prove. He won the WWE title and whatever. He's not going anywhere.
I was there that night when he won it, so.
Well, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's cool. See, it's kind of one of those things that the problem that they have right now is they have a lot of people.
They got to cut their roster down. It's too big.
Yeah, they need to get, but they got to be paying some people outrageous money. Dolph Ziggler has to be making a lot of money to be there.
Yeah.
So he must be making some money, but they might not have any money left here. But yeah, I don't know why that match was so high up on the card. I mean, I don't really follow SmackDown or Raw really because they're pointless to watch. Like the Shield reunion's really cool. I think it makes sense to do that on TV because that makes people excited. But I don't really know what they're going to do with them. The problem with WWE right now is you have the Shield, but you don't really have anyone else for them to feud with.
All right, let's see. We're gonna put him against the Miz and his group.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's still forced. There's no natural groups for them to feud with, so that's awkward. But I'm glad the Shield is back together. That makes me happy. And that's when Roman came out, there was the mix of boos and cheers. More people were cheering just for the fact that the Shield might show up. Sure. And then when Dean Ambrose came out, they got more excited. And then when Seth Rollins came out, the fucking house fucking blew up. And then everybody was cheering Roman Reigns for the first time in fucking years. No one was booing him. Right. So that's why they waited this long. I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Next up in our main event, Kevin Owens defeated Shane McMahon in a Falls Count Anywhere Hell in the Cell match.
So this just proves that it's dumb. You're if you're it's just a dumb concept. I don't care if Shane McMahon is protecting his family, whatever, whatnot. Who cares? A. Yeah. B. It's not. I don't want to see Kevin Owens fight Shane McMahon. I don't care. It's not a match. I don't think I've ever been man, if I could see Shane McMahon versus XYZ, that would be a good no. That's never occurred to me ever as a wrestling fan. Not once have I been that Shane McMahon is going to make this match better. It hasn't. He should be what Daniel Bryan is. He should not wrestle. There's no reason for him to wrestle. Now, granted, props to him. He can still do the things that he does, but why? Him falling and doing coast to coast, and he just looks miserable and he looks in pain all the time. So it doesn't make him look badass. Wrestlers as they get older change their style. Shane's still expected to do the same shit he did 20 years ago. It's not. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's stupid to believe that Shane McMahon can beat up Kevin Owens.
Can he dye his hair? That bothers me. Like,
I don't.
Can you dye it black? Because if he dyed it black, he probably would look like pretty much the way he looked like when, back in the days. But fuck, like.
Well, the thing is that they're really ruining the matches. So Kevin Owens is beating the shit out of Shane, and he's like talking to his kids who are in the audience, right? Yeah. And he's like pointing at, and they're smiling. So if
Cornette would have saw that, he would have smacked the shit out of him.
Right. So it's just, I don't get it. So if your kids are in the crowd, you can have Owens talk to him, but don't cut to him, because they know it's a work, and we know it's a work, but we don't want to know that it's a work. So when you have these kids all smiling and giggling while Kevin Owens tells them he's going to fucking murder their dad, what is really like? So wow, okay. So not only do I know this match is bullshit, but I'm really 100% sure now that this is complete fucking bullshit. So no matter what happens, I'm not worried because I know it's all, Yeah. The only thing good that happened was Sami Zayn came out and pulled Kevin Owens out of the way, and Shane McMahon and put him and had Kevin Owens win the match. That was really cool. I think that's great. I think hopefully they had that little thing where Sami Zayn came out and he was talking to Kevin Owens on SmackDown, saying, I don't want to do things your way. I want to do things the right way, and things haven't really been going my way, but I want to do them the right way. So there's some content there. So hopefully they get back together and they do some stuff. I think that'd be good for everybody. Sami Zayn hasn't been really doing anything.
Nothing.
And I don't want him to be
He's done anything since that Nakamura match.
Right, and he shouldn't be the new Dolph Ziggler. So hopefully he'll do stuff with Owens, and they'll do something with that. Right. Hopefully that involves somebody taking the title off Baron Corbin. So, but yeah, I mean, that main event was, some people liked it, some people didn't. I didn't really care for it, but I don't really care about that. I've never been a huge mark for these anymore. Doing those spots doesn't mean anything because it was just beaten to death in the Attitude Era. So it's neat that Mick Foley did that one time, but now that everybody's done it and Shane's done it literally twice, if it didn't kill you the first time, why would I think it would kill you the second time? Yeah. And not only that, I don't really want to see you die. Like it's just not worth it. I don't care to see that. I think the biggest problem that WWE has is, like you said, Hell in a Cell is meant to have some sort of psychology behind it. When you throw people into like a little itty bitty feud, and I guess they tried to build it up because kind of Shane screwed him out of his U.S. title, I guess, but it's just not believable.
Right.
I don't want Shane McMahon interjecting himself in matches, and it almost looks like he doesn't even want to do it. It's like they're forcing him to or something. So he doesn't. It just doesn't come. It comes off as really forced. Yeah. So I think, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes to have him do those things. But if I was him, I would just tell him to fuck off. It's not worth me killing myself for a match that nobody wants to see.
Yeah, totally agree.
So I don't know. It wasn't overall. The pay-per-view was It was okay. It was a mid-card pay-per-view. It wasn't a SummerSlam. It wasn't a Survivor Series.
Would you pay for that?
I mean, technically I do. Would I pay $60 for that? And if you do, I'm sorry.
Because you could have got the MLW One-Shot for $4.99, and it was a hell of a better show. So there you go. All right. So Luke, we'll see you next time when we have our next WWE pay-per-view, which I think is TLC. Can't wait to get your take on that. So we'll definitely check you out later.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. So, Matt, what'd you think about this show?
Well, I saw most of it. Not live, but I saw most of it. And people were complaining. Some of the stuff was kind of weak, but I thought there were good spots in there, too. I think the finale was really well done. And you want to end a show strong, because that can often, carry a whole show.
Yeah.
You're like, the show sucked. But the ending was awesome. I think the Rude Ziggler thing's kind of just not working, so I'd get away from that. I think the tag match in the cage, from all the things I heard and what I saw, for a few this was to be like this over-the-top, getting bigger type thing, it's fine. You want these guys to escalate. against it, but I heard a lot of reviews saying it was too violent. I did not agree with that.
How can you be too violent in wrestling? It makes no fucking sense.
I know, like, well, it's not their style. Well, whatever, dude.
Well, fuck those guys.
Fuck those
I
guys.
thought the tag team match was good, and I thought the main event was good. Although Shane is now the guy who falls off of things.
Yeah, well, I told you, I think they should do a show on, like, HBO or Bravo with just following him around and he falls off things.
So, yeah.
Shane, what are you doing? Fixing the lights. Oh, shit. What does Shane fall off of next week? Join us as Shane checks out the local farm plant for electricity or the windmills. Just,
Ridiculous.
I think I get it, but you can't do it again. Like that. That's it. That
has to be it. That has to be it. And I do like the fact that Sami Zayn turned heel. That was good. The finish of the match wasn't bad. I guess that's the reason why they had a falls count anywhere to do the pinfall in there. But
right.
I think overall the pay-per-view was solid. I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't pay $60 for it, but for a network pay-per-view, I think we got to lower expectations for these pay-per-views. They're not much better than an average Raw. That's the reality of the situation.
I'll jump ahead and say, okay, well, fast forward where they have Reigns versus Strowman next week in a cage on Raw. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I know your ratings are bad, but you don't give away your main. Like, it's just stupid. Their booking is so fucking shitty.
I wonder if it's input from the USA Network, because over the years it seemed to me that the USA Network is getting more and more power within the WWE. I wonder if they have to, give them things.
Yeah.
To kind of justify the money they're getting paid out. So that might be a reason why we're seeing a lot more main event matches than you used to. Like, we used to get Raws. I'm not even talking that much that long ago, where your main event would be like, the main event would have been Kevin Owens and Bobby Roode and Randy Orton versus like AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, and Rusev or something like that. You know what I mean? It would have been a 6-man that had all the feuds in there, and they would have been fighting. And SmackDown would have been SmackDown's quality over the years have been up and down. So no one watches that show.
I watch SmackDown.
I prefer SmackDown overall, to be completely honest, because I have more wrestlers.
I will say
I enjoy
what Raw's doing with the whole. Well, we'll get into that next. The whole cruiserweight division.
Yeah. So your boy,
mine,
your boy Neville, walked out.
Captain Ugly.
He is the fucking an ugly man. Not that I'm a good judge in. No, I knew a lot of sexy boys in the '90s, so. He's not a sexy boy.
If you're a sexy boy, you're not a boy toy. You're just a sexy boy.
I'm pretty sure Vince wrote that song too.
I think he did.
It's weird. It's off-putting. Essentially, he was supposed to be in the main event of Raw, and he was going to lose to Enzo. Instead, he just leaves the building. So there you go. So they put the belt on Kalisto instead for some reason, and as of right now, he's not released. He may have asked for it, but there's been no indications that he did. He just refused the job, and he's like, he's been not happy for a while. So it's possible that he gets released. It's possible that they just sit him at home and don't pay him. Who knows?
Yeah.
So Matt, what are your thoughts on someone not willing to do a job and walking out of the building?
I think it's often you're thinking of yourself as being bigger than the product. Like, dude, just do the job. It's not a big deal. Like, I mean, unless they do some kind of like, Enzo's gonna squash him. But really,
so you think he should have walked out after the match?
No, he just could have made a better point about it. I mean, I just think it's a bad way to go with that direction. Like,
well, let me ask you this: if he asked for his release and was denied, like prior to the show, or maybe last week,
and they were like, "We're going to send you off. I have a new job at Enzo," and he was like, "Nope, see ya."
Yeah,
I think fine. If he's going to leave anyways, then why even work for there?
Yeah,
like
if you're not a happy camper, you're not a happy camper. I mean, he'll do well. If they end up releasing him, he'll do well. On the Indies, he'll end up going back to England. He'll probably get a nice little offer from New Japan. because he was a star there before. So yeah, so Godspeed, Neville, whatever you do.
Right.
The cruiserweight division. Well, you got Kalisto as the new champion, and Enzo lost, which we thought that Enzo was going to hold the belt for a while. Like they should have had it. If you going to put the belt on him, I would have put it on him for fucking ever, and never take it off of him.
Yeah, have him keep it. Whatever.
Yeah, until Ricochet comes in and beats him in a year. You know.
Right.
But, you know, whatever. It's Kalisto, I guess. He's good, I guess. I don't know. Nah, fuck that guy. Fuck Kalisto. How about that? Ridiculous. So, in other news from this week, did you hear about our good friend and friend of the show, Jim Cornette, getting in that confrontation with Santino at the Legend of the Cobalt convention? Did you hear about that at all?
What now?
So, for those of you who don't know, you guys should know this, that when, in 2005, when Santino was first starting, he was in the amateur class. And, you know, Jim Cornette was, he was the booker and half owner of OVW, developmental promotion for the WWE.
Right.
At the time. And this is when the office wanted Jim to push the Boogeyman. Remember the Boogeyman?
Right.
So, you know, Jim was like, whatever. He's already pissed off. He wants to go home. He's not a happy camper. They're making him do dumb shit. John Laurinaitis just takes over for Jim Ross, and he's not getting along with him. And now he has this Boogeyman that he has to push. So he's figuring out how to push the Boogeyman. So Santino, who just been there for 2 weeks and is part of the amateur class, again, he's not signed talent. I'm going to make sure we're clear on that. He's not signed by the WWE. He's just there in the amateur class. Like, he's paying to be there, essentially.
Yeah.
So the Boogeyman, you know, is supposed to be scaring people at ringside. So again, he put the amateur class, you know, around the area, and they're supposed to run from the Boogeyman. And Santino laughs, like in the Boogeyman's face. At that point, Jim, being Jim, lost it, and he's like, "You're not going to sell for the Boogeyman. You're not going to sell for the Boogeyman," and then slaps Santino a bunch of times in the face. He's like, "You going to sell for that? You're going to sell for that? You're going to sell for that?" And then Cornette throws him out of the building. Santino ends up calling the office, and that's the reason they used to fire Jim Cornette.
Really?
Yeah. So fast forward a couple of years, when Santino breaks his neck, he goes on a shoot interview and says that Jim Cornette, when I got released, called me and told me that he was glad that I was injured. Cornette denies this, and Jim is not one to lie. So it might have been someone playing a rib on Santino or whatever, or someone trolling him on the phone or whatever. So that was like maybe a couple years ago, I think, or maybe a year ago. So fast forward, a lot of people ended up canceling for this autograph signing and this meet and greet. He's supposed to be there. There's a bunch of guys who are supposed to be there. It's Legends of the Cobalt, Legends of Detroit Wrestling, right? So as a replacement fill-in for some of these guys who had to cancel, they booked Santino. And I watched the video. There's a video of this. Apparently, Jim Cornette went to get a sandwich from the food court. Santino's coming towards him. Santino walks up to him, puts out his hand for Jim to shake it. Jim shakes his hand. And then, basically Jim tells him, like, "I really have nothing to say to you," and tries to walk away. And then Santino wouldn't let him walk away. He basically would, like, walk in front of him so he couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And then, they got into an argument. Santino was clearly trying to bait Cornette into hitting him again.
Yeah.
But Cornette wouldn't fall for it at this point. He's like, "I'm not going to hit you so you can get me arrested or sued," blah, blah, blah. So they're screaming at each other. And eventually, this one gets kind of dicey. Either Cornette left on his own accord. He grabbed his shit and left, or he was booted from the building. Cornette claims that he grabbed his shit and left. Eventually, they actually threw out Santino too. So they got in another altercation. The video is actually hilarious because you see Jim's like motherfucking him. He's like, "You're a disgrace to the wrestling business. You're a comedy job guy. Blah 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 blah." Santino's like, "We could do it right here. You want to hit me? Hit me." And again, people forget how big Cornette is. He is bigger than fucking Santino.
Yeah.
But even Jim admits is like, he could have beat my ass right there. That's fine. I'm 56 years old. So fast forward to the next night at the Bruce Pritchard show, the live show. another Cornette thing. They do this gimmick at the Pritchard live show where, because Bruce does all these amazing impersonation. He does like Vince and Dusty and Randy Savage, Cornette, and he does Russo. So Cornette grabs the Russo, and there's a Russo head. So when Bruce does these impersonation, he puts like the Russo picture in front of him, like it's a picture on a stick.
Yeah.
So he puts the pictures in front of his face. So Cornette grabs the Russo picture, throws it on the floor, and goes for like he's going to piss on it. But then he whips out his dick by accident.
Oh.
So he flashed everyone in this the St. Andrews Hall, and everyone got to see Jim Cornette's dick that day. So a hell of a weekend for Cornette this weekend. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So Matt, what are your thoughts on Cornette and Santino?
Oh man, I would say, some grudges in wrestling still hang around,
Yeah.
But I think, if you're gonna hit a guy, just hit the guy. Don't try to set up, just do it,
Right.
If you want to get back at him, get back at him. Get done with it, But I think Cornette has made enemies of a lot of people because of his way he speaks, which is his way.
Yeah.
But you got to realize if you talk that way, someone is eventually going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And
I don't think he would mind if someone actually just punched him in the face. I don't think he would litigate or get them arrested. He would just. He tells a story about one time fucking Tully Blanchard slaps him around in the fucking and Crockett just slaps the shit out of him.
really,
He also tells a story about Bill Bundy doing the same thing in Mid-South. He's like, I didn't run to the office. Like there was heat for a couple of weeks and then we squashed it.
yeah,
It's kind of a new school versus old school approach, which is slightly different. I mean, even Cornette says I wasn't mad at Santino at the time, and I probably shouldn't have slapped him. So he admits that he was wrong for hitting him 12 years ago. But for this guy to come out and maybe lie about something that Cornette said and then try to goad him into hitting him again, kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and most people are on Cornette's side with this. So.
yeah.
After seeing the video, it's like it's a typical bully move. You've seen it before, where like you go to walk away from him, but he won't let you walk away. So he steps in front of you, and then you go walk the other way. He steps in front of you again. It's like a typical bully move. So that's what I think about that. In other news, we had Jimmy Jacobs, a longtime Ring of Honor wrestler, and formerly part of WWE Creative. I believe he was working with NXT and maybe. Raw, SmackDown, I'm not 100% sure, was recently released, fired essentially. And the reports coming out of everywhere in the world is that he was released because he took a selfie with the Bullet Club when the Bullet Club invaded. I believe that was a Raw that they invaded. So basically what happened was that Jimmy Jacobs went outside, Bullet Club's out there. He goes and takes a selfie with the Bullet Club and then posts it on Instagram. And then he was fired for that. At least I don't think that's the official reason, but that's the reason that is going around that he got fired. So Matt, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Jacobs getting fired for taking a picture with his friends?
Pretty weak.
It is pretty weak.
It's just petty. Come on. Just really, they got better stuff to do than worry about that. But again, like we were talking in the pre-show, that they're at a point now where they're sending cease and desist letters, and they're really putting other guys like on a pedestal. It's like
they're making the Young Bucks stars at this point. They're making Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the whole Bullet Club, the Elite. They're making them stars. So the more they do this, the more people will get behind them. Now, should Jimmy Jacobs taking a picture with them? No, it's pretty stupid. It would probably get you heat politically.
Right.
But a lot of people are trying to use real world examples. First and foremost, wrestling is not anything that comes close to the real world. Number two, if it was the real world, you probably wouldn't have gotten fired for that. I work for corporations. Matt, you work for a corporation.
Yep.
We are in charge of people in corporations, right? It's what we do for a living, right? I manage people, right?
Yeah.
Any corporation that has a human resources department wouldn't let me fire someone for doing that. No matter how disruptive their friends were, No matter even if they took a selfie on company time, they get reprimanded. They might get sent home, and they might get a write-up. They're not getting fired.
I think the one area you could probably see something like that happening is politically. Like if you had someone who, let's say they were like the head of a campaign, right?
Yeah.
And they're running a nasty campaign against another candidate, and that candidate's like out someplace, and that person sees him and gets a picture selfie with them. Not the best way to endear yourself to your, the person that hired you.
Yeah, but we're talking about, it's a corporation. Like
Right.
WWE is a publicly traded corporation. I own stocks in WWE, not a whole lot. I'm not invited to the conference call, but I own stock in WWE. And I work for a publicly traded company. I don't know if your company is publicly traded or not, may or may not be. But you have an HR department, and you can't fire people for no reason. I know there's... In New York, they call it at will. So everyone, when we hire people, they sign something called an at will employment. That means we can terminate you at will for no reason. But no one ever does that. Because even if you have an at will sign, those necessarily don't hold up in court, especially if it's retaliatory or it is, what's the word I'm looking for? Discriminatory?
Right.
Like, there's hoops. I have to get that shit fucking approved. And maybe they did get it approved by their HR. That's why it took so long for him to get released. Because don't forget that Jimmy Jacobs wasn't an on-air talent, which is different. They can release on-air talent whenever they want because technically they're independent contractors, right?
Yes.
But he's part of the office. So he's technically an employee. He gets benefits and all that other shit, right? So maybe that's the reason why it took so long. They went through the HR department. Maybe it can't be the only thing that he did. There might have been some other things that he did that this was like, all right, this is the thing we got you on.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that happening. That they said, well, we're gonna wait until we get you, and we got you for this. It's something small, but it'll hold up in court.
Yeah. So like, you were drunk at work one day. That's your first write up. You no-showed an event. That's another one. You did enough, and that was the thing that they dinged them on finally. That's what I could see. But if you would tell me that by itself, and everyone's trying to use Pepsi and Coke or Burger King, McDonald's, it's like, no, none of that would have happened. That wouldn't have happened. I can have a friend of mine come into a store, take a shit on the floor. I can take a selfie with him, and I'm 99% sure that I'm not getting fired for that.
Well, if he was in mid shit and you were pushing on him.
Well, if I was, sucking the shit out of his asshole, then maybe.
Oh my God. Oh.
That might be public health, but it doesn't apply. It just doesn't apply. And should it have been fired? No. A reprimand, send home, a suspension possibly. Yeah. But not fired. Especially when there's a gray area, because don't forget there's been other wrestlers appear on the Elite's videos. If you go on their YouTube page, you'll see Kevin Owens in the background of one. You'll see Xavier Woods in one. You'll see Sami Zayn in another one. So those are on-air talent. I think I used the example, if Kevin Nash walked out when the DX invaded Nitro and took a picture with them, and I said, would Bischoff fire Nash? And they said, yeah, Bischoff firing Nash. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Now, that's a bad example because that's an on-air talent. Top guy. Top guys can get away with more. We all know this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad or a lame example, but it's a silly example for a silly situation. My opinion.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. So, what are you gonna do? All right, guys. So this is we're rapidly running out of time. So please make sure to check out our next show. It'll be live from Texas Stadium. It'll be World Class Championship Wrestling presents Star Wars. Main event of that show, Harley Race taking on David Von Erich. So for Matt Riley, I'm Juan Cena.